Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Friends, for my speech tonight, I want to convince you that humans belong in space. We should migrate in mass from the Earth to live in space. To be clear, I'm not talking about a far-fetched location. I'm not talking about Mars. I'm not talking about a different planet light years away. I'm talking about ships and structures near the Earth, in orbit, close to the Earth. Currently, we have a station called the International Space Station. It exists now. There are astronauts that are up there for extended periods of time, 6 months up to a year. And it's well understood that people can live in space for an extended period of time. In the future, we're going to have larger ships and more of them. Now, this is an artistic depiction, but you can imagine a cruise ship in space. That's what you can think about as where people are going to live. As a technical note, I want to mention that the way we're going to build these ships is not by launching them from Earth. We're going to mine materials from the moon. We're going to set up robotic mining facilities on the moon and use that material to construct these cruise ships in space. Now, the main point of my speech is why we should do this. Isn't space just a nerdy obsession that some people talk about? Why would a normal person want to live in space for the long term? And there's a couple of reasons. Number one, space is safer than Earth. This sounds crazy at first, but when you think about it, there's a whole category of natural disasters that just don't happen in space. There are no volcanoes in space. There are no floods in space. There are no earthquakes in space. That means you're just going to be safer in space. Space is calm and still and quiet, and that means we're going to be able to make it safe for us. This is actually related to a paradox that relates to the safety of airplanes. It turns out that if you look at the statistics, the safest place you can be is on an airplane. In 2017, there were 0 deaths in all of commercial aviation. And this seems paradoxical because when you're in a plane, your whole life depends on a complex machine with electrical parts, mechanical parts, aerodynamical parts, all working together simultaneously. And if those parts fail, you're going to crash to the Earth and die. But the reality is that these machines are very safe and they very rarely fail. And so you are actually quite safe in an airplane. And that kind of safety will carry on into space. Related reason is that humans living in space will ensure humanity's survival in the case of a total calamity. There are a couple of scenarios that people have imagined where all of human life on Earth could be wiped out. For example, a nuclear war, a comet strike, or a super plague, something much worse than we're experiencing today, could kill all of the humans on Earth. And of course, this is a total disaster in any situation. But if there are humans in space, those humans can continue the species and humanity can survive as a whole. Now, switching gears a little bit, I want to talk about the enjoyability of space. Space is going to be more fun than Earth. I want you to imagine a city like Tokyo that's full of neon and activity and stimulation. Cafes, bars, restaurants, arcades, all of these interesting activities going on in the city. And the difference now is that you can explore this environment in 3 dimensions. If you see a cool restaurant at the top of a 20-story building that you want to go check out, you just jump up and float over there and get to the restaurant. You don't have to take an elevator. You can explore this environment in a fully 3D way. And as an interesting side note, it's going to be a fun puzzle to develop new sports for space. If you think about the way sports we have today, all of those sports depend on gravity. And when there's no gravity, those sports aren't going to work very well. So it's going to be fun to think about what sports will be enjoyable in space. And on a related note, there's a lot of unpleasant things that happen on Earth that you don't have to worry about. So here I have a picture of a girl who slipped on some ice and broke her leg. That doesn't happen in space. In space, you don't fall and hurt yourself. You just don't have that problem. This is a real problem for older people who can fall and break their hips in particular. There's also no ice. Maybe you have ice in your drink, but it's not like there's a lot of ice out there in the environment. There's not snow. It's not going to cause you a problem. Those are the first reasons. But now I want to take a moment to collect myself and to build a little bit of dramatic tension for the real reason. This is the biggest reason. I think the previous things I talked about were a little bit lighthearted, a little bit humorous potentially. But here's the real reason. The real reason and the biggest reason is to restore the Earth. We are going to migrate into space so that we can restore the Earth to a pristine state. We have done so much damage to the planet as a species. We've polluted the oceans, we've eradicated whole species, we've clear-cut forests. We have to undo that damage. And the best way we can do that, the only way we can fully restore that damage is by migrating off of Earth into space. And that is the best and the highest reason, I think, for doing it. Toastmasters, space will be safer for humans, it will be more enjoyable for humans, and we can restore the Earth to its natural state. Those are why we should go to space. Thank you very much.